Good afternoon, good evening, and good morning to everyone. Thank you for joining, first of all. Welcome to this edition of BioCafe webinar. BioCafe is a community of blue ocean enthusiasts, really an FLR initiative. And before we start, let's get some of the intros done. We will not be able to do everyone, but at least two or three people who will be moderating the session, etc. And of course, Michael. I'll go first because I'm speaking first. So my name is Tilak Iyer. I co-run FLR Consulting Services, management consulting firm focused on strategy in general, but blue ocean strategy in particular. I have with me Serena George. Serena, where are you? Please wave your hand. Serena works with Blue Ocean Global Network and is based out of Singapore. She will be moderating this session with me. That means she will be asking some more questions along with me. I also have with me my business partners, Balesh, Vikram, and the others who will be collecting and moderating the questions from the audience. While Serena and I will ask questions, we want to keep a lot of time at the end to cover audience questions. So as and when questions come to your mind, please post them on the chat. We should spend quite a bit of time towards the end to answer the audience questions. Now, the most important intro, now that we have done our intros, the most important intro. Some of you know Michael. We are excited to have this conversation with Michael Levie. A quick intro about Michael. Many of you have read about him and so on. Michael co-founded citizenM Hotels and opened the first hotel in 2008. And nobody can forget 2008. If ever you think about depression, you think about 2008, right? Lehman Brothers collapsed and signaled the global recession. And cannot be a worse time to start a business. And hospitality business at that, hats off, right? citizenM today is a very celebrated blue ocean story. Only one of the very few which have been covered in detail in the Blue Ocean Shift, the book. Today, they have 24 hotels across the globe and 22 more coming near you. Michael is also a sought after speaker in various forums, and we are lucky to have you here, Michael. Welcome, Michael.
Thank you. Yeah, I think that unfortunately 2008 was bad, but we're going through this terrible pandemic, so we have found something worse, unfortunately. But
sure.
yeah.
Yeah, true. Yeah, absolutely. So I will do the easy part, Michael. So both Serena and I will do the easy part of asking questions. Michael, you did say that today is about the Blue Ocean strategy with citizenM as an example, but we'll start with citizenM and then build the story. So Michael, when we very early on, you decided and found that you cannot compete in a crowded market like hospitality in traditional ways, right? You really redefined the market parameters and created uncontested market. How did you go about doing that?
Yeah, it's always difficult to get started because our thinking sort of goes into default. And when we want to do transformational thinking, it's way more difficult. That's why Blue Ocean is such a great help to, sort of assist us in guiding our thoughts in the right direction. I think that there are, of course, many industries where competition is fierce. But I think the hospitality industry is extremely fierce because everybody looks at each other, tries to one-up each other, and try to offer those type of features that are considered special or different. And yeah, it's very difficult to stand out. But we approached it really from a different angle. We went to the guest, and from a guest journey point of view, each particular guest for each particular journey that you will take has specific needs. So if you're part of a group or convention, or if you're on a business trip by yourself, or you're traveling with the family, or you're on a romantic trip with your partner, yeah, your needs are quite different. And our industry provides you actually the same solution for all these different travel reasons. And what we felt is, let's not try to compete with the product necessarily, but let's adjust the product to the type of travel that you have. And let's do something different than everybody else that basically says, whenever you travel, whenever you want to pay our rate, you're welcome. Let's say, listen, if you're a frequent traveler, you really know what you want and what to expect from a hotel. Let's create for them this ideal setting. And then let's focus only on the frequent traveler. That does not mean that we close the door for anybody else, but all our focus, all our communication, all our transparency in who we are, and what we offer is about what we can do for a frequent traveler. And that sort of allows you to set yourself apart then. A couple of examples to that is our hotels don't have connecting rooms. Why? Because if you're a frequent traveler, you're not necessarily looking for a connecting room. Our rooms do not have the ability to put in a cot or a rollaway bed or a crib for that matter. Why? Because a frequent traveler does not look for that. So you say no to a lot of things, whereas for that frequent traveler, you create a lot. But we will talk a little bit about later, of course, how that goes in the blue ocean. But I think that really we set ourselves apart there foremost.
Perfect. Sure. Thank you, Michael.
So what it sounds like is that you essentially try to identify, you put yourself in the shoes of the buyer and different sorts of buyers, try to empathize with their entire user experience. And in doing so, you created the tagline for citizenM, which I believe is affordable luxury for the people. So by doing that, you managed to bring in a whole new set of non-customers, a large group of non-customers, which you call the mobile travelers or frequent travelers, right? So my question would be, how did you actually identify that these set of customers had an untapped need that wasn't really being addressed by the existing industry?
This is a very good question. I think that we are accustomed to look into the industry and follow the star qualifications, right? So 5, 4, 3, 4, 2, and 1 star, and that is sort of giving us an idea of what to expect. But like I mentioned earlier, if you look at the type of travel, then that doesn't say so much about it, and it doesn't say so much about my needs. So if you travel frequently and you know exactly what to expect, you know what to have with you, what the type of things that you want to use from a hotel, and there's a lot of services often that are being rendered or offered to you that you have no need for whatsoever. And in the meantime, you do pay for them. So if a hotel offers a business center, if a hotel offers a spa, a pool, any type of features, you within the room rate pay a little bit for that, right? Of course, it's not broken down for that, but the overhead you carry. And if you look at a frequent traveler and you see what their 80-20 rule is on need versus nice to have, then you all of a sudden can start to focus at complete different things. So I would go even to the extreme in the answer in saying is that the way citizenM was created for a frequent traveler, they have 100% of what they need and what they're looking for. But if you're a 5-star traveler with a family, we're a disaster. We're a terrible choice to make. If you're, so for every type of travel, there is different requirements. And in the particular niche, we fulfill everything and we over deliver. But in other niches, we're falling way short. But that is the beauty of having that choice, because you can really set yourself apart.
Okay, that's quite interesting. So then my follow-up to that would be, because this set of non-customers these sort of features or this sort of model wasn't present for them previously, right? So do you think it was hard to sort of convince them? Was it a hard sell essentially to sort of move over, if I were to say, to your value proposition, what you were selling?
Yeah, I mean, every beginning is difficult, huh? So I remember when my partners and I got together with the citizenM idea, and I would tell people about that. Yeah, I think they wanted to lock me up into a crazy home. They thought I was nuts. I mean, that cannot be done. And especially our industry is very traditional. So a lot of the traditional people said, listen, I mean, you're crazy, cannot be done. And of course, when you create a product and you're going into the market and you're just one hotel, yeah, you're not a chain, you're not a brand, you're an independent trying to get into it. And how is it then all of a sudden to say, no, I only want frequent travelers? So it's very difficult to get that start going, but the location indicates, of course. Our first hotel was at Amsterdam Airport. Well, good chance that you grab some frequent travelers there.
Yes.
And we've always chosen for AAA locations in metropoles. So the type of clientele is available, and the way you talk, the way you speak, the way you enter into the market in everything you do is that. And I think that affordable luxury for the people, of course, it's a cutesy line that we use. But basically what we were saying is that if you're a frequent traveler, you get pure luxury with us for a mid-market price. But we have stripped a lot of things away that you don't want to pay for. So there's a lot of value for a good price. But again, that's only if you're that frequent traveler. Another component is that often people in our industry try to segregate the reason why people travel. So they said, well, or it's business travel or it's leisure travel. Well, that doesn't exist anymore. So we combine everything, and we already in running up to the first opening in 2008, we envisioned the type of technology that people require that are frequently traveling. We looked at what type of flexibility, what type of service delivery, what type of elements were important for them. And that's what we created. And whether you travel a lot for business or leisure, or you combine the two, I really don't care. But your look to what your need is exactly the same. So that's a little bit where that came from.
Okay, that's quite interesting. Thank you.
Very interesting, Michael. So you use the Blue Ocean strategy to really identify a set of customers whom you called as mobile customers, who were not being served by the industry, and really focused on it. Really, right? One of the things that you will agree really is that you did find that blue ocean early on in your venture. That is the mobile customers. In fact, citizenM actually drove their behaviors as well, so that you could combine their needs. And you have been really successful. There are 24 hotels and 22 more coming up and so on. One of the things that you will agree really, Michael, is that some of the revolutionary things that you did may not be any more unique. That is, there may be many more copycat hotels and so on. Is there a need to explore blue ocean strategies continuously and not stop early? How has been your experience?
Yeah, look, let me first try to put in perspective what citizenM is and what we can and cannot do. So if we have all our hotels that are on the development open, we will be a chain of 46 hotels. Yes. Well, if you look at the 100,000s of hotels available in the world, I mean, that's like a percentile that you cannot even express. So it's very little. And I think that if you look at trends, lifestyle has become more and more important, and not only in the hospitality space, but in everything we do, right? Mm-hmm. So other people going into lifestyle does not mean that they're copying us. They are seeing the opportunity in lifestyle and are giving it their own twist and their own thing. The best compliment that I think you can get as a company is when people consider you an example to look at when they go into that lifestyle space to learn, to see, and to sort of get awakened or enthusiastic about their own development. So copycats, I'm sure there's a few. I once stayed in China in a hotel that had actually 100% copied us.
Mhm.
And it was so funny because I walked into our own hotel, but done completely in a Chinese way. And trust me, the location and what they did had nothing to do with us, but it was interesting physically what they had done. But so first, let's preface that a little bit.
Mhm.
Innovation is actually taking mostly existing things and realigning them, right? Reshifting them.
Mhm.
And that's what we did with citizenM as well. So it's not that we created only new things. What we did do in order to become financially efficient, what we did do in order to serve our own purpose, we created a lot of different business processes. Give you a very simple one. Housekeeping is always a big task in hotels, right? To clean all the rooms and to keep the building clean. And imagine everything that comes with that. You need to have the linen done, and most hotels even have linen cleaning on premise. And then the industry said, well, maybe we should have a linen company do that to us, and we just have our linen washed there. And in Europe, even it goes further, whereby we don't own our linen, we just rent it from the company that cleans it. And we went one step further and we said, listen, why not have a cleaning company that is specialized in cleaning, that knows how to work and deal with the employees and the structure and the methodology of cleaning, and the linen company work together, because then they can do all the logistics. So we brought two companies together for a joint venture, our initiative, that have a cleaning company and a linen company, and they do everything. So they do our purchasing of guest supplies and cleaning supplies, obviously our choice what they order and the quality and all that. But logistically, all that travels to the linen company that will be somewhere at an industrial area, whereby volume is great, easy. And if that linen comes every day clean to the hotel as well, well, next to the linen to have a toilet roll piggyback is easy. So if it then arrives at the hotel and the cleaning company themselves receives it, distributes it, and makes sure that the rooms are clean, I have solved a huge logistic problem. Now, the logistics is not only, I don't have purchasing, I don't have receiving, I don't have storerooms, I don't have the employees, but imagine, to them, it's no additional cost. It's already all calculated in. So huge savings. So it's those type of changing of business models that I'm talking about that we did spend a lot of time on, because that really benefited us financially. But we then encourage them to go into the industry and sell that product to others as well. Because why not? Why keep that to 46 hotels in the world only, right? So I think it is those type of things that you do initially. But if you look at, we mentioned the COVID pandemic, yeah, a lot of things are changing. So what do? So we responded immediately. We said, okay, people don't want to touch things. So let's do touchless. Everything needs to be touchless entry. So we now have the app. You check in with the app. Well, a lot of hotels have that, but they didn't have the technology then to allow to also activate elevators with it, and to use then the smartphone as room key as well. So then all of a sudden, touchless becomes meaningful, which is still innovation that takes place today. And I think that the day you stop creating, being innovative, being hungry to do new things, that's the day you should close the door. So it is always ongoing, but that does not mean you need to change everything. Those things that work and work well for us, yeah, we review if we can improve them, but we don't touch them.
So it sounds like obviously there was a lot of thought that went into creating citizenM and the features and functions within it. But for you, do you think that Blue Ocean generally could be a eureka moment, or do you feel like it requires quite a structured approach, to follow the 5 steps to making a Blue Ocean shift, to explore, find, and, eventually execute a Blue Ocean?
Well, let me answer it this way. If you bring, I mean, we're on the call with 70 plus people. Take any 10 people that are on the call that are all eager to learn about innovation and novelty, and bring them together for a brainstorm. Okay, I guarantee you that it will be a wonderful time that you have together to brainstorm about a new hotel or a new concept. But to then make out of what comes out of ideas or issues, to then actually put that in action and create something out of it, good luck. That's going to be very difficult. So brainstorming is often misunderstood, and innovation is often misunderstood. And I think that what Blue Ocean allows you to do is follow a process that then takes all these things or puts your thinking in a frame of mind that then becomes productive and has outcome. And I remember very early on when we started citizenM, I had the privilege of meeting Chang Kim, one of the authors of Blue Ocean, as you know. And he gave a presentation to an audience of 1,200 people, and he climbed up on stage, and it was an innovation day, and he yelled to the audience, "Who thinks that innovation is good?" And of course 1,200 hands went up, and he yelled to them, he said, "You're all stupid." You know why? Because it's about 87% of innovation fails in its first year. And it is the Blue Ocean pragmatic approach and the details that it takes you through in your thinking process that increase the survival percentage. And I think that that's what Blue Ocean does, and it has helped us tremendously. Yeah, absolutely.
And one of the questions that, and you possibly answered it a bit, Michael, is that when people think about Blue Ocean, there is a bit of a misconception about the whole innovation process and so on. And there are various people in the call from various industries. In a continuation of what Serena asked, the tools and techniques that are there as part of the Blue Ocean strategy are crucial to an innovation in any industry. Isn't it, Michael?
Yeah, I think so. I had the privilege of doing some presentations with the Blue Ocean team, and then other industries were represented, like I that had used very much the Blue Ocean strategy. And one that stands out in my mind is a group out of Australia, Sun, that in banking and insurance, and they were the number 15 in Australia, and fierce competition, everything. And the new CEO really started to look at Blue Ocean and how he could do things differently. And he, like us, did not start to look at what can I do better in competing, but he said, okay, let me analyze what is happening. And he went back, like we did, to, if I have an issue with an insurance, either something has happened or I have a question. So he went back to the call centers and the handling of the claims, and he saw that there was a lot of friction. And then he realized on his P&L that about 35% of their earnings went to promotional activity. And he stopped overnight all promotion, just overnight stopped it. And he took all that money and went to this call center and all the people handling claims and said, there is money available, there's resources available. I want you to go out and take care of our client. And the whole shift took place. And of course, he went through the processes, he went through following to what to eliminate and what to reduce, and what to create and what to increase, obviously. But it was that type of thinking that it's applicable in any industry. So yeah, we're talking hospitality, but yeah, I think it is a mindset, and that is something more you need to realize. And we people are like computers. Once you switch a computer off and switch it back on, it opens up in default. Well, so do we. We think in default, not because we want to. That's just the nature of the beast. So if you want to teach the computer something new, you need to save it that it is the new default. So Blue Ocean is a new default of thinking in innovation and creating and becoming transformational. So that's the system how I see it.
Yeah, I think one of the tools, which is, there are many tools in that, but one of the tools that I find it most crucial and most difficult to do in that is the 6 paths, which looks at other industries, what you can learn from and implement, right? This is the next question is really very favorite of me as well, Michael. So as Blue Ocean strategists, we regularly help organizations steer out of red ocean. But one of the key things that we find is that leadership commitment, an active involvement of leadership is ultra crucial. If we don't have it, we are not going anywhere. So what are your views on that? That is importance of leadership commitment, number one. Number two is that how do you drive the culture within citizenM?
Yeah, I think that anything that you do from a management practice in an organization that is not supported from the core, yeah, will never work. I think that one of our default thinkings is that the core needs to come from the top. But the most successful companies today do not have a pyramid hierarchy, but they work with holacracy, for instance. It's all circles working together. Yes. So again, so default thinking is something that happens to all of us. It happens even as we speak, and oh yeah, I'm in default. So I think that it is very true. It needs to be carried, and to have it carried by culture is the strongest, Tilak, and I agree with you. And culture is something specifically for an industry like the hospitality of vital importance, because imagine our hotels are from Taipei and Kuala Lumpur all the way to the west coast of the United States and anything in between. So can I touch any and every employee? Impossible. The culture can. So what we said is that if we do not define who we are as a culture and are very transparent and open and clear about that, then it will be very difficult for people to decide whether they like to work with us, yes or no. And for us to find out whether they would be good to work with us. So what we do is that culture has become very clear. It's clearly defined. And then when we look for our staff in the hotels, we don't do interviews, but workshops. And in those workshops, we see the values, the characteristics of these people at work. And they've forgotten that they're on an interview. And if they are 85% or better the same to our values, we hire them. Because I can teach somebody how to make a barista cup of coffee. I can teach somebody how to shake a cocktail. I can teach some systems. I can teach some life safety. Those things I can teach. I cannot teach somebody to be nice or kind or interested in other people. So those values are very important. And then the rest we train. And the funny thing is that if you have the same values, yeah, I can throw you the key of the shop and you will run it excellent. And that's what we have done. So we have empowered our teams, and our line staff are the ones that are ultimately accountable for the guest satisfaction. And they are incentivized like, you know, in leadership, you're accustomed to be incentivized. And that's not on an annual basis because their life sits way more on a monthly basis or even sometimes on a weekly pay scale basis. So we adjusted those incentives, but they're 100% only on guest satisfaction, no other criteria. So I believe that culture is very important, but culture in any business can be done. But that means that your heart, your soul, your passion, your love is into it. And you do not make it about a business process, because business processes, it's just the rails and the train fits on there, but the way the train looks and the functionality, that's a completely different thing. So if you want to do blue ocean well, then it needs to be all inclusive in the culture of your organization, country, or as a, yeah.
Sorry, please go ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt, Michael.
No. I think that's it. It needs to sit everywhere, and then it needs to filter down through all the layers. And one thing that I have learned, and that holds true anywhere and everywhere in the world, when most people are asked in business, what do you think are the motivators of your staff? They will talk about money and benefits. And I find that nonsense. So I believe people want to belong to something. I think people want to contribute to that they want to belong to, and people just want to be recognized for that contribution. So if I'm excited about a company that has blue ocean and I can contribute to that blue ocean process, and people recognize it, hey, Tilak, thanks for that contribution, or I'm recognized for my contribution, way more important, because that gets productivity up. Now, it would be good to pay them well also, and have the benefits in place, but that is not going to move the dial.
Thank you, Michael. Before we open up for the audience questions, Serena, you had one last question. Do you want to ask that as well?
Yeah. So I guess this is following on from what you were just talking about, Michael, but based on your experience, going through the whole blue ocean process, and there are a lot of companies now, especially during the pandemic, trying to ride out these turbulences that are looking to make a blue ocean shift. What would be your top 3 recommendations or top 3 nuggets of advice to them?
First of all, I think that a blue ocean thinking is not a trend. It's not, let's make it the flavor of the year and we all climb onto blue ocean thinking, because no, it's a way of being, it's a way of thinking, it's a way of organizing yourself. So either you do it and then it becomes part of who you are as an organization, or you don't. That's one. Although you need to react to crises, and although you need to take advantage when possible of crises, it's very bad to make decisions when you're emotional, right? It's the same as when you're reacting to a crisis, you do not make the best decisions for long term. So my advice would be is do what you need to do for the crisis. I'm not saying do not apply blue ocean, but that's a conviction. That is a way of being. That is for much longer. And you make your best decisions when you weigh them off. Is this really something that is gonna make the difference for us? So I would stretch the time. And I think that usually when in times of trouble, we sort of zoom in to the moment where that is. And I try always to zoom people out, because that's when you, over a longer period of time, find stability.
Thank you, Michael. That's really good. So with this, Serena and will stop for some time, and I'll hand over to Balesh for some of the popular questions which have come by. Please continue to put your questions on the chat. Balesh will pick up and ask those questions to Michael.
Sure. Thank you. There are quite a few questions that are on related topics, so I'm going to club some of the questions. And while I do that, I'll request Vikram to monitor the chat sessions and filter the next set of questions that can be asked of Michael. So there are a few questions from Raj, Rajaram, Abhijit, all centered around How did you come up with this particular segment of the customers that you want to target, the frequent traveler segment, and whether that was a chosen means to get more business? And if you focused only on one particular segment, did you have to let go other customer segments, and therefore, how did that play from a revenue and growth standpoint?
Yeah, we arrived there from two angles. It's a very relevant question. One is, if you look into the industry, then like I mentioned, the hospitality is done by star rating, by qualification, and that usually then has the impact of the size of your room, the number of services that are required, and that's one. The second thing is that you can look at it from purely a customer's point of view. Do I travel for business? Is it leisure? Is it a romantic trip? Is it with my family? But what we started to see is that the biggest disjoint was with business travelers that are buying way too much for what they really want. So an average business traveler arrives at the hotel minimum at the end of the business day. So before 7, 8, they don't show up, right? And often you only show up after you have entertained or had a dinner or whatever. So you're at the hotel from 9, 10 at night, and you're out of the hotel by 8 in the morning. So can you imagine how many services can I use at that point, right? So, and yet you're paying for the swimming pool, for the spa, for the, you name it. So we saw that there was the biggest disjoint. So then there is the most territory to take advantage of to give the guest a benefit out of that, and obviously yourself to improve of that and
Hello? Michael, you're there?
Yeah, I think it kind of froze. I think he probably dropped off. Yeah.
Okay. We'll give a minute to reconcile some more questions then. Michael, are you back? I think he'll be back. Hi, Michael, you're back. You're on mute.
always with luck, the internet discontinues. So my apology. My partner, the senior partner in citizenM, is Ratan Chadha. And Ratan came from India 45 years ago to the Netherlands and started a company in fashion called Max. And he was very successful. In the end, sold that company to Les Claiborne, but had also invested and found passion in participating in hotels. And he never understood why we did not enter more retail thinking into the hospitality. And he was totally right. And in working together, we spoke about also his designers. So his designers, a couple of hundred designers, traveled all over the world. And impossible for these people to stay always in very aspirational hotels. So they stayed in mid-market hotels. And I think the color orange was basically used for everything. They looked pretty bland and they were not exciting or inspirational. So he said also, can we create a mid-market brand that is more aspirational for those frequent travelers? So we also had a little bit of a modeling and a tool already that we could take a closer look at.
All right, excellent. So the next set of questions, again, I'm clubbing some of the questions here because they are related. So the next set of questions are, how did you form the core team that went about creating the Blue Ocean? And how did you go about getting buy-in from your internal teams before you rolled out?
As partners, we came together by introduction. So my experience and background is in operational hotels, and I had worked for large chains, done multi properties, and led larger hotels or hotel groups. And part of my team that I was working with wanted to do something new, and we started to work on the early stages of citizenM as far as the room and the value proposition. And Ratan with a team was working on, hey, from an investment point of view, how can we convert hotels and get better returns out of them? And a mutual friend of ours brought us together, and that was the start of citizenM, if you wish. But I think that how the team came together is that we reached out to the best specialists that the industry offers or were available in other industries. Because if you're transforming an industry, that it's very difficult to find leadership that can do that in your own industry. So you sometimes need to go to other industries, other verticals. But like I explained to you earlier with our staff, where they need to be 85% or better overlapping with our values, that's different, of course, for our support offices. And I say support offices because they're not headquarters, because normally headquarters know everything better. And in our case, the people close to the guest know things better. So we support. But in the support offices, we have verticals and disciplines. So I want the best HR, I want the best learning and development, I want the best accountants, I want the best lawyers, I want the best branding people, I want the best tech people, I want the best digital people. But what we do is once we've found them, we give them at random to a few people in the company. And that could be the lady that serves the food in the cafeteria, that could be the assisting team, doesn't matter who. And they interview the individual as well. And they need to give a thumbs up, like the person or not. You know why? Because I don't care how good you are. If you're not liked or you cannot fit in an organization. So we find the best people, and then they need to get the seal of approval whether they're nice. And if they're nice, then we have a good time and we figure things out. And I always say we have one rule in the organization, and that is respect. And the rest we figure out together. But respect I cannot teach. So that is something that needs to come with the individual.
Thanks, Michael. There's another set of questions, and they're all centered around these various functions that you have. How do you categorize which ones to keep, which ones to take away? From an ERRC perspective, if you're looking at it, there are a whole bunch of functions that people have. How do you determine which ones to keep, which ones to take away? How does that value innovation happen?
Yeah, I love this question. Thank you so much for those thinking of this question. So hospitality industry is a relatively undereducated industry. So a lot of people end up in our industry by default. So they're studying and they're doing a little bit of work at the hotels or restaurants to make some extra money. The studies are not going that well, and they're making good money on the other side. And all of a sudden they have become hoteliers. They drop out of school. And then 30, 40 years later, they're our leadership in the industry. And is because of the undereducation that there's a lot of gut feel thinking. There's a lot of, this is the way we have done it. I know better, those type of things. And we are like a yeah, almost like a tech company. We only believe when business intelligence tells us yes or no. So we A/B test everything. We collect data on everything. And unless data is collected and can give us answers, we make decisions. That does not mean that we do not go with our gut feel. That does not mean that there is not a human element to it. But most of the decisions are derived out of pure BI, business intelligence, that we're able to substantiate and are able to make solid decisions on. And that does not come mostly for the rest of our industry, unfortunately.
Right. Yeah. Thanks for that. So just follow up on that in terms of the parameter on which an industry operates, right? You look at the parameters and then you work on it. So how do you identify the parameters on which, like the way you looked at mobile travelers and things as your focus, right? So how do you identify the parameters and then focus on which ones to hit the mark, which ones hit the mark and which ones don't?
Vikram, brilliant. Because if you innovate and you create new, yeah, then there is no standard to compare to, right? So I give you two examples. So most hotels work by segmentation in their contracting. So you're a group, you're a corporation that has a corporate rate, or you get classified in different elements. And we said, well, that's not contemporary anymore because people book through the internet. So people choose which channel they book through. Do they do it with an online travel agent? Do they use an agent that uses the GDS? Do they come directly to you? That makes a big difference. So we said, out with the segmentation, we only want channel. Yeah, there was no information on channels. So if you do your own trading, yeah, traders get a lot of real-time information to make good trading deals. Well, we didn't have that information. So we had to create a lot of the companies and a lot of the information that is needed in order to get there. So either we created it in-house or we helped start companies that would do it in a more broader way. But the most important thing was when we started in 2008, was there a real rating of the guest, how they perceived your hotel? Not really. So today, if you go to an online travel agent, you see the rating there. If you go to TripAdvisor, you see rating, or you see, but really an NPS score, a Net Promoter Score, or it didn't exist. So again, we helped companies that are scraping all the guest feedback on the internet, are quantifying it and qualifying it. And I helped one of these companies create the GRI, the Guest Review Index, something we made up. And now the industry looks at the GRI to see is how well is their index compared to the industry, or their index compared to their competitors. So it's sometimes very difficult to find the right measuring stick to do success. And what is even more complicated for those of us that are invested in, we own all our hotels. Try to convince a bank or an asset manager of a bank, or the people that are analyzing your business of new measuring sticks, because they go back to what they know, not to what you serve them up. So it's very, very, very complicated, very difficult. And patience is a good advice. Biting your tongue many times is a good advice. And sometimes not reacting is a very good advice, which I can say from experience, I've messed up all of them. So it's basically advice to all of you.
Thanks for that honest response. One other question which is related to that is more about, while you were going through those process, did you take any inputs from other industries or even adjacent functions and things from other industry, which helped you in terms of shaping citizenM the way it is right now?
I think you always listen, right? Because feedback is a gift. So if you get feedback from people or you get people's opinion, it's good. I'm personally of the belief that we had a small founders group, and the founders group are not necessarily the shareholders, but also, there's a founders group of people in the company that really create the company, carry the company. It's not one person, it's not a group of 5-6 people that happen to be at the early stage in, but it is a group of maybe 50 to 100 people that really build your company and drive it. And I call that the founders group. And I think that they have to have a common drive. They have to have a common passion. They have to have, really clarity on their purpose. And although you need to listen to a lot of people, and although you need to apply that advice and see whether you should do something with it, I'm a true believer is if you have that group of people that day in, day out work at it, let them do what they need to do, and don't get distracted too much, because if not, pretty soon you're like a young puppy, a young dog that runs after every ball that you throw at them and they don't ever catch a ball. So we have become very focused. We stick to what it is that we want to accomplish, and we have been successful at it. But I'll give you a couple of examples. So once we had created the modular room, which was a great cheap way and very efficient, where you could have value engineering both from a cost point of view and from point of view. So people said, okay, then you need to make a connecting room, or you need to make a suite, or hey, that unit can also be used for a hospital or for student housing. If we would have gone after all those advices, today we would not have a hotel company. We would be all over the place, was probably doing nothing. So I believe also in focus.
All right, so I think that last point probably asked the question from Ramdas, where he was asking, did you ever get tempted to digress from your focus in terms of the frequent traveler segment? And I think you just answered that.
Yeah, the answer is not only yes, are you tempted, you're already tempted before you start, right? Because we're entrepreneurs, so we want to do everything. But reality tells us we need to focus, otherwise we don't get there.
Right. There's an interesting question from Samir about the whole process. Did you benchmark against specific competitors, and how did you measure the success of your strategy, either in terms of market share or return on capital or any other measure? So I thought it's an interesting question.
Yeah, it's very difficult because there are not many owner operators that create a brand the way we have done, so that own all their assets. So there's a lot of companies that will have some assets they own, some assets that they manage on behalf of somebody else, some even franchise. So it's very difficult to find that measure, right? So that was very difficult. And also what we felt is that in India, you're blessed with some incredible brands. So Oberoi, Taj, I mean, those are incredible brands, right? Truly brands. But they have also a lot of sub-brands again. And if you look at the large American companies, the chains, I think that's Marriott, I think has 47 different brands. How does that work? I don't understand. So I think what the difficulty is where do you focus? Where do you box it in? And yeah, that's why we concentrate on what we concentrate, try to get that brand recognition, that relationship that people have with brand. And then when you look at who are your competitors, yeah, we looked at the build of Four Seasons over the years. We looked at a few other chains that have built one hotel at the time like we do. And you look at the curve of adaptation rate, because we thought we would go much faster than we are actually going. But you see that also they, went through 4 or 5 hotels a year, maybe a year in their history that they opened only 1 or 2 hotels. And how much can you handle as a brand? So you try to find what is relevant for you. But really carbon copy to us, there are not many companies that do it our way, which everybody needs to make their own decisions, but it's difficult to compare.
Sure.
Excellent. So another question from Sanjeev, in terms of, you already have a hotel with an existing infrastructure. And if you have to take a product such as citizenM, how would you really go about deciding that? Is it based on the segment or the geography? How would you go about doing that?
Well, so not every building. So if there's an existing building, and we look at conversions as well, if the building has rooms of an average size of 38 to 42, a luxury room product, and I cannot, divide them up and make them smaller and get to the size of our rooms, I cannot get to the benefit. I cannot get to the financial benefit. So not every conversion is possible, but if you start to look at where would you place a citizenM, we understand those criteria. A frequent traveler, you will not find in a 1,000 population village, right? you will find them in the metropoles, and then where in the metropoles, good traffic connections and public transportation possibly. You're looking for central business districts. You're looking for let's say the character or the center of a historical town. Where do you sit? So we know exactly where we want to position ourselves, and then based on that, we start looking for opportunities, greenfields if possible, conversion of buildings. We have bought office buildings and converted them, no problem. But we do want to derive back at what we know how to do best and what the business offer is that citizenM does. And if it doesn't fit, we walk away, because then it becomes very difficult to make the finance work, the returns.
Sure, thanks, Michael. I think there's a question from Manish at a broader level about Blue Ocean. Is Blue Ocean a tool to come up with a strategy, or after you define the strategy, if you have to use it for implementation, is it any different from other tools? And what was your experience?
I think it goes hand in glove, right? It works together. So it's not what's first, the chicken or the egg. It needs to go hand in glove. And what I mentioned earlier, it's more a way of thinking. It's your new default thinking. So will it help you to come up with new strategies and new disciplines? Absolutely. Can it lead your thinking to new innovation? Absolutely. But it is not something, let's use it next week, Tuesday, between 2 and 4 in the afternoon. That's not how it works. It really needs to be something that you have rolled out, people understand in the organization, people know how to contribute, and people have some base knowledge of it, because like everything, you don't give a 5-year-old the keys to your car either, because maybe they move it, but it might not be the smarter thing to do. So it's really something you need to do by intent, I think.
Okay.
Right, so I think we are on the mark for the hour. One
Sure.
last question maybe, because there are quite a few people who have asked this question. How are you adapting to the pandemic situation? And is that requiring you to rethink your model?
Well, when the pandemic started, we immediately started to see the effects in our Shanghai hotel. And China was rigorous in their reaction to that very early stage. We were not talking about Wuhan yet. We were not talking about COVID yet. We were not talking about a pandemic yet. We were just talking about something is happening. And in Shanghai, they immediately responded. And we learned a lot from that, because we said, hey, listen, if it happens there and it starts to spread, we got to do something. And soon enough in Taipei, it started to pick up. And so a lot of the learnings that we got at an early stage, we then were able in advance of the pandemic waving over the rest of the world, implement already. And I think we all went through those same stages. So first, it's about your guest and your employee safety.
Mm.
So you take those precautions. You start to look at supply timelines and supplies that you need to have in your personal protection, right? Then you immediately start to look, okay, what impact does it have on my business? And not today, but what if this takes longer? How transparent do I need to be to everybody? And we decided to be completely transparent, immediately went to everybody. So with our investors, with our partners, with our banks, with our guests, with suppliers, I mean, we were an open book. And because we were early, we really served them up all that. And then when everybody was in shell shock and it went like, oh my God, what do we need to do? We were already thinking, listen, we're going to sit still for a while. What are we going to do while we sit still? Let's try to keep as many people that we have, because starting all anew is not good. But what are we going to do? And we started to focus on what did we want to accomplish when we would get out of the pandemic. And then again, involving our shareholders with that, involving the banks with that, involving the teams with that. So we were lucky to be a little bit ahead of the curve. But I think that in all honesty, most of us are sitting like, how do I get from pre-pandemic with this horrendous revenue deficit to post-pandemic? So how do I bridge? And then so a lot of it went, how do we get to the other side, and who do I still want to be when I'm on the other side? And I truly believe that transparency is important, and that with those that you work closest with, and that is, again, not something that you can do overnight. So either you're transparent and you have relationships, or you don't. And that counts in any vertical, that counts in your relationships. And I think that people know who you are, and they start to navigate on that in times of crisis. They know who to listen to or not. So yeah, that's how we have tried to get through it. Has been very difficult. We went from 16 years running hotels at 90% plus to, single digits. I mean, overnight. It was very difficult. And in the US, our properties are running again at 70, 80%. In Europe, we see the countries unlock and things get better, but we're not as far back there. And of course, there's some countries that are just going through lockdowns or more difficulties and are lagging behind in the vaccination or in their state of pandemic. And yeah, that has a direct impact on travel and on people's comfort also to be out and about. So has been a long ride, big losses, a lot of impact for us, but we try to stay close and true to those people that matter and that help create us. And yeah, we're slowly but surely getting out, and I hope for everybody that is still sitting a little bit deeper into it or as having trouble with their organizations, be very truthful, be very open, be very honest, because everybody has understanding of what we're going through, including your customer. So our guests, we tell them, listen, can you do this? Can you help us with that? People are totally different because everybody understands where we are. So yeah, that's really maybe a good advice for everybody, is be open and ask for help. And people are, at this time, very understanding and willing to do so.
Excellent. So
Yeah,
back
sure.
to you for closing comments.
Sure, thanks. First of all, thank you, Michael, for such an engaging session. I must say it was indeed really powerful, learned so much, and the time just went by. So thank you again.
No problem whatsoever. Thank you for the opportunity. And, if there's other burning questions, then maybe through you guys, you can always send them to me. But my advice to you is stay very close to the purpose of your business and what you want to achieve.
Yes.
Blue Ocean is unbelievable if you adapt it and make everybody participate in it, make it a new default. And the pandemic is tough on everybody. Make sure that it is inclusive and that you do it all together to get out. And yeah, let's hope soon that we travel and hug each other again and meet face to face. So till that day, I say goodbye for now.
Sure. I think we know where to stay the next time we are in Europe. So
Very good.
thank you everyone else for joining in. Hope you have enjoyed the session. Please do reach back if you want to know more about Blue Ocean strategy. Thank you again.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thanks,
everyone.
Michael. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Michael.
Thanks.
Bye.
Thank you.
Vikram Balesh.
Thank you. Great session.
Bye.
I think it must be working. Let me
Good
check.
session.